This is the Making the Tough Call podcast. I'm Katherine Crace. I'm a social worker, lawyer, and longtime trainer in professional ethics. Please note, while I'm an attorney licensed to practice law in New York State since 2001, I'm not your attorney, so nothing I say in my recordings should be considered legal advice. Today, we're talking about dual or multiple relationships. Specifically, when can professionals, including therapists, work with people they know? For many professionals, it's perfectly normal to have a relationship with a client or patient outside of the office environment. In my own life, for instance, my brother-in-law is my dentist. I recently socialized with a lawyer who represented me in a real estate closing, and I see a physician who's my sister's good friend. And I know I'm not alone. But when a professional has a relationship with their client or patient outside the context of the professional services that they're providing, we have a term for that. It's called a dual relationship, or sometimes multiple relationship, but they're the same thing. Dual and multiple relationships are pretty common in some professions, and if not all, but they always bring about ethical risks related to what we call boundaries. When a professional has a dual relationship with a client, there is a chance that their non-professional relationship with that person will impact their ability to focus on their professional duty. The feelings that a professional has for that client that are not focused on the professional goals can influence the decisions that the professional makes, and that's where the danger is. The professional might provide more attention to a client they have a dual relationship with than what they would give to other clients that they don't have a dual relationship with. That's not fair to the clients who don't have the dual relationship, right? The professional might miss important factors in their evaluation and treatment of a client they have a dual relationship with because the professional assumes that they know something about that particular client. And that isn't fair to the client in the dual relationship because they're not getting the same level of care that other clients get. And then there's the impact on the client themselves. Clients in dual relationships with professionals might not be as willing to share intimate or embarrassing details that are actually necessary for the professional to provide them with the best level of care. Sometimes it's because the client is concerned that that information that's embarrassing, etc., might change the way the professional thinks about them in their personal relationship. This limitation in particular puts the client at a great risk from the dual relationship. For these reasons and many more, professionals in general, but especially mental health professionals and therapists, are discouraged from knowingly entering into dual relationships with clients. This means that mental health professionals, and especially in roles as psychotherapists, should avoid whenever possible starting a professional relationship with someone they already know. This also means that those professionals should avoid whenever possible developing a non-professional relationship with the client they've become acquainted with in their professional role. Now, most importantly, we must avoid romantic and sexual relationships with clients. Psychotherapists in particular are never allowed to have a sexual relationship with a current client. In such situations, the psychotherapist is subject to penalties such as losing their license, and in most states they can be convicted of a crime and sentenced to jail time in addition to incurring a financial penalty. General dual relationships, even in mental health professions, are not explicitly prohibited. A general dual relationship might be ethically appropriate to meet the needs of a client when the client would otherwise not be able to access the services of that particular type of professional, and they need it. For instance, in rural communities like small towns, small population, there might not be many professionals to choose from. There might be one attorney, one physician, and one therapist appropriate to address a particular issue for many miles. It would not be ethical or fair if members of that particular community would not be able to access those services of that kind of professional because of the limitations provided by their geographical location. So sometimes dual relationships are more acceptable than in other situations. Dual relationships might also be seen as appropriate, if not necessary, in what we call insular communities. Some clients in tight-knit religious or ethnic communities, for example, might not feel comfortable receiving particular services from someone outside of that community. However, the nature of their community might be that they'll likely have a dual relationship with most professionals as a result. So in these situations, a dual relationship might be necessary in order for the client to receive services they need. When a professional deems that a dual relationship is necessary in order for the client to receive services they need, the professional needs to be careful. The professional should make it clear to the client that they're entering into a dual relationship, and then the professional needs to emphasize the actual risks to a dual relationship. There are always risks in dual relationships. The client needs to be able to understand and appreciate those risks and then accept those risks in order to move forward in the professional relationship. Do you have a hypothetical dual relationship question that you'd like to explore? Maybe drop it in the comments and see what other people think or what I think, or send me an email. And if you're interested in finding great live continuing education trainings on boundaries, including dual relationships, check out the trainings that I offer on my website. And if you're looking to schedule a training on boundaries for your own organization staff, reach out to me by email.